Hi and welcome back to another Tech Minds video. So in this video, we'll take a look at the Baofeng BF-1802L and see if this radio is any good by checking audio transmission quality, RF transmit cleanness and RF output power across the supported bands. What you may have noticed there that the box I received this radio in stated it's a digital mobile radio. Well, it's not. This is an FM only radio, and it appears I was sent this radio in the wrong box. Anyhow, what's included in the box are the items we would normally expect to see with a radio like this. Now, first up is the user's manual, which is fully in English and pretty much covers all of the radio's features and functions. Now, I actually quite like this, as there's been so many radios that I've received in the past where you just get one piece of paper telling you literally how to turn on the radio. So the included user manual with this radio will help out all those newcomers to these types of radios. Of course, a radio without an antenna would be useless, so they kindly included this flexible dual band antenna. And when I say flexible, it really quite is. A belt clip, which attaches to the rear of the battery, is also included alongside a wrist strap. Now, a fairly decent quality external earpiece and microphone is also included in that box for those of you that like to take the covert approach when using handheld radios. Now, a mains base charger is included, and with this particular model there is no USB-C charging. However, I had seen there are replacement batteries which do allow USB-C charging directly on the battery itself. However, this model that I received requires the use of the base charger to charge that included battery. Now, the battery label states that it's a 2200 mAh battery at 7.4 volts. The battery's model number of DM82 is also shown on the label, so maybe this is a legit product. As you can see, this battery has no USB-C charging, but it does feel quite solidly built and it's quite rugged. The inside label on the radio shows the frequency range in which this radio will support, and I can confirm that this radio transmits and receives on those frequencies. So if you're in the US and have access to the 1.25 meter band, then this radio is a tri-band radio for you. For all others that don't have the 1.25 meter band, then this radio is essentially a dual band radio covering 2 meters and 70 centimeter handbands. Now, FM broadcast reception is also supported from 76 MHz up to 108 MHz, but it doesn't appear to show on that serial number sticker. This radio comes in a couple of different colours, either blue like this one, or apparently there's an orange variant. The keypad has a nice feel to it with its rubberized buttons. These feel quite sturdy and have a nice feel when pressing them and making that clicking sound. Now, incidentally, the keypad is also backlit, which in my opinion is a nice touch and I think should be on all handheld radios. Now, down the left side, we see 4 buttons. The top smaller button activates the NOAA weather frequencies for use in the US. Now, below this is the main PTT button, and then below this a further 2 function buttons. So this either changes the power level from high to low or vice versa, and the lower function button activates the built-in FM broadcast receiver. On the right side of the radio, under a rubber flap, we find a speaker mic socket, which also acts as a programming port, something which we see on pretty much all handheld radios of this style. On the top, we find the antenna connection along with a continuous rotary encoder, which is used to change channels or frequency when in VFO mode. Now, next to this, we have the on and off switch, which also acts as a volume control, and there's also a status LED which indicates when receiving or transmitting. Now, powering on the 1802L, you'll notice the screen has a black background with colour indicators. You'll also notice there are 2 VFOs, which can be used to monitor 2 different frequencies or memories at the same time. Now, this radio does not let you receive on both at the same time, it's more like a dual watch feature. Now, the screen may look hard to read in this video, but this is just the glare from my studio lights. Now, later in the video, when I take the power readings, you'll see that the screen is easy to read and actually looks rather nice. Now, going through the menu system feels somewhat familiar, like we've seen on many radios in the past. Now, no real special features jump out when going through the menus, but there are some which you'll want to change immediately, such as beeps and those annoying voice prompts, otherwise you'll just slip into madness as you browse through the menu. To switch the focus between the upper and lower VFOs, simply tap the red menu button, and to switch between VFO and memory mode, hold the green button in for a couple of seconds.
This is M0DQW checking the audio on the Baofeng BF-1802L. The Baofeng BF-1802L. This is M0DQW checking audio. Audio test 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Currently talking around 2 to 3 inches away from the mic on the radio itself. This is M0DQW testing.
Now moving on to checking the power levels, and on 2 meters we see an output of 2.5 watts on the low power setting, and then 5.7 watts output on the high power setting. Wow. On the 1.25 meter band at 222 MHz, we see an output of around 1.7 watts on low power, and then it jumps up to 3.5 watts on the high power setting. Now moving on up to the middle of the 70 centimeter band at 435 MHz, we see an output power of 2 watts on low power, and then a disappointing 2.8 watts on high power, so not much difference there. Now this radio will also transmit at 446 MHz, which is the UK PMR, with similar power output that we saw on 70 centimeters. But just to remind you that this radio cannot be legally used on the UK PMR band. Now what you would have noticed in this power testing clip is the display of the BF-1802L, looking rather nice. Now this is more of a true representation of how the screen looks in real life, without those studio lights glare on the display. Now programming the 1802L is fairly easy from a Windows computer. Now I did try finding a working model on Chirp, but all that I tried failed to connect. Now let me know if you get one working yourself and leave it down in the comments. However, using the T6UV software, which is easily found by using Google, easily programmed this radio for testing, allowing you to add memory channels and change the radio's functions and features. A maximum of 999 memory channels can be programmed according to the specs, but I've never maxed out a radio like this, so I guess 999 should be plenty for most users. Now you can also brand your radio by uploading a bitmap so that the bitmap is displayed upon power up. I guess this is a little bit of a gimmick, but it also has a real life use, especially if these radios will be used in the commercial market. So let's take a look to see how clean the RF output power is on this radio. Now on 2 meters at 145 MHz, we can clearly see a second harmonic, which is around 28 dB down from that fundamental. Now although this is not bad, it's not great either. Would have been nice to see a little bit more of attenuation of that second harmonic. Now up on the 70 centimeter handband, we see absolutely no second harmonic, which in my opinion shows that those filters are working well. Now lastly, let's just check the 1.25 meter band, and again there's no significant second harmonic when transmitting at 220 MHz. Again, something nice to see here. So overall it's a fairly decent and usable tri-band radio, well if you're in the US. And if you have one of these, please let us know down in the comments below what you think of this radio. And I'm sure some of you eagle-eyed viewers would have seen this radio in another form or brand. Now let me know which reincarnated model you've seen in the comments below. Until the next video, stay safe, thanks for watching, and see you guys in the next one.